Oh, hello everyone. How are you doing? My name is Abbas Saleem Khan, and I'm the CEO of Optera Digital. I would like to say thank you for giving me this time to present our company as a part of the Get Hired program with BWIC. Optera has been working with BWIC for quite some time as a background partner, and we've loved the great work they've done so far. Uh, Going forward, I'm going to actually talk about Optera Digital. It was founded about 3 years ago after I had come off a successful run on producing Burka Avenger. And before that, I was doing game work, working in games for about 15 years, everything from art, game design, and producing. Uh, and I got to a point where I was like, what's next? What's the next thing that we can do? So, uh, I'm going to show you what it is. It's Transmedia. Uh, the idea behind Optera Digital was to take all the various things we've worked on for in different ways over the past 20 years and sort of put it together under one framework or umbrella. It's called Transmedia, and it's frameworked by a person named Dr. Henry Jenkins about 25 years ago, where you have one story and you can access that story through multiple channels and then create your own stories out of them. An example of that is Star Wars. The story of Star Wars, well, up till say prior to it being bought by Disney, was one story. And once you saw the movie, then you could read the comic books. In fact, the comic book came out before the movie, and the book came out before the movie as well. And then they saw the movie, and then people would make their own content out of it, and you'd find more content that'd be based around it. So a lot of times you'd find everything based around Star Wars. You could experience the merchandising, even the toys, and then people would start writing their own stories, and they'd have fan fiction forums that debate it. Um, and this went on for a very long time. For the longest of time, Star Wars was dead in the 80s. Nobody really cared much about it. But the fans kept the story running, and then they said, okay, we still have an audience, let's write books. They made more books. And when the books were successful in the early 90s, they made the prequels, and they made a comic book line. Star Wars never died as a result of it. So Optera Digital basically uh, takes all these different things: animation, gamification, augmented reality, virtual reality, comics, social hacking, transmedia, holograms, and sequentia, and basically tells it where required. We make our own products, but we also do a lot of services for other people. And I'm going to sort of show you some of our work along the way. The first thing that we do is that when a client comes to us based on our success in games and animation, people say, "Oh, we've got $1 million, and we want to make an animated TV show or a big game." And the first thing we tell them is these things are very expensive, and if the IP or the story does not connect with the audience, you're going to end up losing your money because it's a very expensive process. So we always encourage people to start with comic books first. So we made comic books for the World Bank and the UN and Pakistan, and now there's a lot of development sector organizations exploring with the format. But what Optera did was that to prove the concept and the viability of comics and creating a discussion, we created, Reality Girl. And it dealt with the sexual abuse of runaway street children in Pakistan. And what we did was that we took a hashtag on Instagram called Reality Girl, which was about women wearing makeup. And we pushed it out to Pakistanis, Generation Z. That means students in universities and schools, and using a bit of influencer help, pushed it out. And for 3 months, we took the most popular hashtag for women wearing makeup and testing out selfies. We can turn that to that of sexual abuse of children in Pakistan. And a lot of people came up with stories, and they said, "Oh, this happened to us." And we read all the stories, we collected them, we understood them. The debate and discussion is what we did with it, using technology and a good story and an idea in which people could connect with. Evadia is basically another comic book we've been working on, which just recently launched on Webtoons. It's a subcontinent fantasy which allows you to eventually deploy it into a classroom and retell the story of the South Asian history. A lot of South Asian history has been rewritten from a colonial lens, like the British rewrote a lot of our history, and to make it serve them. So we don't actually know a lot of our own history the way we should. So Evadia allows us to retell it in fantasy terms without creating controversy. And right now, Evadia is one of our flagship products, and everyone is. It's a pretty cool product. Check it out in Webtoons, and we're going to do a lot more with it in the future. Another thing we did was gender parity analysis. We were working with the innovation team with the UNDP, which was to basically create a game that analyzed people having gender parity bias in the workplace. A lot of time, the HR in every organization would just give a quiz and survey, and they thought that was sufficient, but it never went into the psychology of people and how they worked. So we built a game, and we created some real life hooks around it. And basically we were able to actually get a lot more close of a response in seeing whether is there gender bias in the workplace, two, do people create change. Once organizations got that data, because we ran this game in multiple organizations within Islamabad, they were able to basically implement changes within their organization or programs to address them. The real problem is that you never get real data. Gamification allowed us to do it. Aaj Kal Ka Zamana is another transmedia initiative we designed for the World Bank for the Pakistan at 100 report. We created a comic book and a game, and this was one of the great big flagship products. The World Bank had never done a game before. They'd done comics to a small extent, and because of the success of Aaj Kal Ka Zamana, they're now working on games in the edutech space and actually pushing games and gamification globally now. So if you see that, at them doing work in that. It actually came from Pakistan. We literally worked with them endlessly. They were very cooperative, bothered working with us to actually build gamified learning, to do gamified social messaging across. And this program is still running, and this is sort of like a success of it. However, one of the things about Optera was that we were working on augmented reality and holograms and also VR work as well. So we created HoloAds, which was basically a next generation advertising platform for augmented reality for phones. It generated 3 patents because of it. In fact, one of them was awarded to us last week. And we're going to be doing a proper launch in November with some advertising agencies. But it's basically a tool set that allows you to optimize advertisements in the AR space and build more brand engagement. It's also being ported to VR. Another thing we did was the hologram for Quaid-e-Azam for the Ache Better Together program. They basically deployed a hologram of Quaid-e-Azam across multiple cities. There were 13 holographic screenings in North Punjab and KPK. 22,000 people attended because at 15 workshops, 4 installations were built around the activity. It was a massive endeavor, but one of the most interesting things was that basically bringing Quaid-e-Azam back to life in computer graphics, building his voice again, understanding the nature of how he behaved, acted, mannerism, archival studies. So this to date from Pakistan is probably the most realistic CG recreation coming out of Pakistan today. It's actually international level. Nobody's really matched us yet, but we're waiting and we're hopeful that somebody can knock this one out of the park. Or knock us out of the park. We don't mind. We want to see somebody do better. Another area that we can't really elaborate inside of this, but the thing is that we do a lot of work in the user experience space. So what we do very specifically in the user experience space is that we work with multiple clients to build much more quantitative user experience work. Now, when we look at user experience work, we look at multifunctionality, which is that we are able to work across all platforms, mobile and web. But one thing that we do very strongly in UX, because Optera is a for good organization first and foremost, is that we focus on accessibility. That means we make sure that people with disabilities all across are able to access the work in any way. That means if you're in a wheelchair, if your hands don't work, we can create all sorts of ways of letting people actually interact with stuff. And the other thing is that we use a lot of data to understand how people are behaving things. As I notice, I'm sort of going out of time, so I'm going to speed up a bit. But our animation work on Ease of Doing Business was featured by the Prime Minister. Summer work on gender bias and using choice architecture and nudging was featured by the UN, and we won an award for HoloAds last year on Pasha. So we do our work. Before we go forward, I'm going to sort of wrap this up very quickly. I'm going to explain our values. Our values are very simple. We are a for good organization. We are committed to social justice. We tend to only pick up projects that have a good environmental impact. We have a commitment to 50-50 gender parity. Sometimes we get close to 50%. We were about 52 to 48. Then we went to about 56. Then now we're going to about 50%. But the thing about Optera that you value the most at the end of the day is teamwork. It's about being a member of a team. I'm the CEO of the company, and when I want to work on a project, I can either lead it, I can be a part of it, or I can be assisting it. A lot of the times, I can simply decide, okay, I'm going to work on this project because it needs an extra person, and I'm going to go as a junior resource. I'm going to let somebody else who's more competent, even who maybe might be 20 to 23 years of age, and let them lead it because they're more competent, and I will support them. Optera is about supporting unblocking. We are a servant leadership company. Other thing that we do is you really foster innovation. So you're literally allowed to have 1 day a week or a couple of hours to yourself or wherever you want. Take time out for yourself, work on your own project, or just take time off, focus and diffuse thinking, and think of a different, interesting way to help what you're doing or work on something else. And this is really important because your brain needs the break. We are very much into cognitive neurosciences. Growth. Growth is important. You are allowed to grow as much as possible. When we hire at Optera, if you're a fresh graduate, we recommend you try the residency program, and you will work with us for about 3 months. You'll be shadowing different teams till you find that you're comfortable with something. This is your direction. You could be a computer science graduate, but you could be a writer, and we'll give you the opportunity to become a great writer instead, because sometimes you just do things because your parents asked you to do the degree, you got the degree, and that's it. Empathy is really important. We have to really care for the people around us. We do not tolerate aggressive attitudes from other people. We care about the other person. If somebody is struggling, we adjust the system to help them out. We fix their pipeline up so their life is easier. We assist them as much as possible. And if somebody needs to learn something, then we allow you to shadow someone till you feel that you're comfortable in it. This was our team before the pandemic. Some of these faces are still here. Most of them are all here. Some of them have left. But this was a small team before the pandemic. Optera, after the pandemic, blew up to 41 people. We pivoted our organization, the way we worked, and we're growing really fast because of it. So like I can say that a few people are not here anymore, but we've got way more people now as a result. We started off with 20 people before the pandemic, now we're 41. And we're going to be growing for the coming year. So just to tell you how many people trust Optera, this is all the people that trust us. And we did this within 2.5 years. People trust Optera because of the qualitative, interesting work that we do for them, plain and simple. And we're probably one of the youngest organizations out there that gets to work with the World Bank and the UN. Organizations have been around 5 to 10 years of existence before they get to this level. We just showed our how awesome we are at the end of the day. And this is the conclusion of the presentation. I'd like to thank PWIC for hosting this event and allowing us to take part. Are there any questions from the audience? I can't hear anything.
Yeah, Abbas, there are a few questions. So we're running out of time. If you can take them in chat, that would be awesome.
I'll do that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your company and all the great work that you're doing.
Cool. I'll do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.